It's an interesting moment to see Jack Dorsey, the former CEO of Twitter, sitting on the other side of censorship. Let me give you the quick context here, and then we'll talk about this. Bitcoin Magazine tweeted that their YouTube channel had been removed without warning. They were banned. And this goes back to a tweet from Jack Dorsey himself. Jack Dorsey tweeted, "Best Why Bitcoin intro and panel I've seen." However, the YouTube video says video unavailable. This video is no longer available because the YouTube account associated with this video has been terminated. My oh my. Jack Dorsey was trying to share information on cryptocurrencies, and YouTube deleted the account of the YouTube channel he promoted. Bitcoin Magazine highlighting this at breaking, YouTube has suspended our account with no warning again, this time in the middle of the Bitcoin conference at midnight. Please help us get the channel back ASAP. Jack Dorsey responded, "What was the reason behind this?" I find that fascinating. Jack Dorsey, who has more insight than most people into why accounts get banned for no reason, was confused, or was asking at the very least why, what reason they gave for banning this account. Now, some people have responded to me saying that Jack Dorsey, Jack was never in favor of censorship. You do not gaslight me, you liars. Jack Dorsey, of course, was in favor of censorship. Jack Dorsey argued to my face in favor of censorship. Simultaneously, Jack Dorsey was advocating for decentralized open source social media while defending and advocating for censorship policies on Twitter. You don't get to come out and be like, I oppose censorship, but here are the people I believe that should be banned. Now hold on there a minute. When we're talking about censorship, we got to make sure we're breaking down the nuance here, because the truth is I'm in favor of censorship. I am. I know. Instantly, a lot of people are like, wait, what? No, but if you've watched my segments prior or watched Timcast IRL, you'd have heard me talk about this. Political censorship of someone's opinions, bad. Censorship of graphic material involving children, good. There is some censorship we absolutely want on these platforms. You don't want to go on Twitter and have people sharing illegal, disturbing images. That censorship is fine. And in my opinion, if someone shows a graphic image of, say, a death or war, I have no problem with censorship in the form of a sensitivity filter. That is to say, if there is an image that's graphic, it says, this image is graphic, and you click it if you would like to see it. Because I don't like scrolling through Twitter and seeing porn and death and murder, and you often do. So I don't mind those sensitivity filters. I really, really don't. It doesn't eliminate the content from the platform. You're still able to see it, but some people who don't want to see that stuff have the option not to see it. I also have no problem if they created a not safe for work filter mode. This is what Minds.com does. Minds doesn't ban you if you post raucous content. They eventually just apply a filter. The way it works, is my understanding, is that if you post something and don't label it not safe for work, and people flag it as not safe for work, you get a soft strike. After your third strike, they will default your content as not safe for work. It's all still available. People can still see it. They just have to click one extra button to do it. I have no problem with that. But let me show you my response to this. When Jack Dorsey was saying, what was the reason behind this? I tweeted, it's weird seeing Jack on the other side of censorship. It is. And a lot of people said things like, there's people talk about Bitcoin and things like that. One person, Rez, responded, the reason is that people like Jack Dorsey have godlike power over the rhetoric on social media platforms and decide what others can or may not say. Eventually, all these elites and activists self-righteously dictate how the others can think or talk. Here we go. Actually, he was against censorship, but despite being CEO, he only owns 2.6 shares. He was ousted by activist shareholders. Elon might bring him back, since he doesn't want to run Twitter, but just back a libertarian. That's not true. Here's another person, Kieran. Jack was never pro-censorship. Wasn't he? I'm not going to be gaslit, my friends. Jack Dorsey, despite what he said to me and to many others, was very much, in fact, pro-censorship. He was. Now, when all this first started, he was part of the Twitter that was the free speech wing of the free speech party. Yet, under his watch, with everything he was claiming, censorship got worse and worse and worse. And there was also that other guy who was involved. What was his name? The guy who was CEO for a while. I'm forgetting his name. I think he was also a writer or contributor to Silicon Valley, that show on HBO. Whatever. Anyway, look, I sat down with Jack Dorsey and their head legal counsel, Vijaya Gadde, to talk about censorship. Joe Rogan did as well. Joe Rogan had a conversation with Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey defended the censorship. And Joe didn't know enough to say, which resulted in a lot of people giving a thumbs down to Joe's podcast episode. It's how I ended up on Joe's show in the first place. I had not been on Joe's show. We had, there was an issue where I ended up getting canceled from a show twice, 2 years in a row. And so I was like, yo, that's kind of messed up, but it is what it is. It's his show. I did a segment on this channel talking about the episode with Joe and Jack and how Joe didn't know what was going on with censorship on the platform. There was, I'll just give you the story. Joe's, I guess YouTube automatically flagged my video as copyright infringement for Joe because I used a screen grab of the YouTube episode. I DM'd Joe and was like, hey, would you mind, releasing this? Like, I need the money. And Joe, I guess, ended up watching my segment and asked to talk to me on the phone. He's like, we should have you come on the show sometime. He then called me back and was like, can you come on the show in 2 days so we can talk about all this stuff? And I was like, sure. Went on his show. And after that, he said, would you want to come back and talk with Jack Dorsey? It was awesome. I'm eternally grateful to Joe for the opportunity, and we had a great conversation. In it, Jack went on to explain the importance of policies like the misgendering policy, how the opinions and worldview of the left is more important than the opinions and worldview of the right, because in his view, there are better conversations that need to be had. Now, he didn't say it just like that. Before we went live on the show, Jack was talking to me about how he wants decentralized social networks. I believe he does, but I don't believe he opposes censorship in the way that we view it. Again, to stress, I'm good with a lot of censorship, a lot of it, when we're talking about child exploitation and things like that. I'm not good with them being like, I don't like your opinions, so I'm banning you from the platform because we believe in better conversations, and only we can bring them about. And that was the mentality of people at Twitter. And Jack Dorsey had every single opportunity to say, I think the censorship is wrong, but the company feels it's the right move. Jack was never in favor of censorship. It's just downright not true. Up until recently, Jack Dorsey was still on the board of Twitter. And what did Jack Dorsey do with a lot of his proceeds? Jack Dorsey's donated to woke organizations. The dude is woke. Now, maybe there is some, maybe Jack just doesn't really know a whole lot about this stuff. I think that's fair. But I've argued in the past that I think Jack is duplicitous. I believe he is deceitful and deceptive. Why? Because if he's going to come out, here's a story from TechCrunch. Twitter taps crypto developer to lead blue sky decentralized social network effort. Jack was talking about social media posts should be on the blockchain. They'd exist forever, all that stuff. I'm like, wow, you couldn't ban content then. He can say all of those things, but he did nothing. He didn't do anything. I mean, I guess, they had these moves, but could Jack have just come out and said, we've got a lot of problems with censorship and we need to solve them and they need to be called out? He could have. He said things like, well, what these people did, what that people did were bad. Did Jack ever look into why people were being banned? So you mean he was the captain of the ship and as people were being thrown overboard, he just believed the reasons behind it? He didn't care. So he comes out later like, we're going to do these things. What did he tell me? Was it really 2018? It's been so long. Path to redemption. People should be allowed back on the platform. There should be a way to come back on the platform. Has it happened? No. Instead, he jumps ship. So spare me. Here's where we are right now. Twitter will stiffen moderation policies in response to the war in Ukraine. Twitter will stop amplifying Russian government accounts and ban some tweets containing images of prisoners of war. Excuse me. Is that all they're doing? No, of course not. It's actually worse than that. Take a look at this tweet from Anya Parampal. Anya is a journalist looking from the ground up at the Gray Zone News, tweeting, Twitter suspended former UN weapons inspector Real Scott Ritter for the tweet below. Twitter claims Ritter committed abuse and harassment. He was obviously targeted because he threatens the narrative. He appealed the suspension, but we must demand Twitter bring him back. Scott Ritter tweeted, The Ukrainian National Police committed numerous crimes against humanity in Bucha. Biden, in seeking to shift the blame for the Bucha murders onto Russia, is guilty of aiding and abetting these crimes. Congratulations, America. We've created yet another presidential war criminal. Now, the official narrative from the media out of Bucha is that Russia has done this, and Russia continues to do things. Fog of war, my friends. Choose which side you want to believe, because in the end, if you're looking for hard evidence, it'll be hard to come by. Now, do I have any reason to believe that Russia is committing these crimes? I mean, yes. I mean, seriously, yeah, Russia instigated this. Russia started this war. You can argue the West was instigating things, sure. I'm not here to talk about war or anything like that. I'm here to point out that there's conflicting information. Now, I tend not to side with the Russian narrative on these things, but I really don't know exactly what happened in Bucha other than people lost their lives and there's horrifying images. What can I say or do? Have faith in the U.S. government? Why? Joe Biden is a criminal. We know. How many stories need to come out about Joe Biden, his illicit business dealings in Ukraine, and his own admissions before we just say it? Well, the problem is the official media narrative is that Joe Biden did nothing wrong. But that's a lie, and we know it's a lie. So I'm supposed to look at this and draw a conclusion based upon trusting Joe Biden and the U.S. government and their U.S. official sources? Sorry, but I'm not going to trust Putin. You know, the way I say it is I lean towards Biden simply because at least I can trust that he has U.S. interests. Like, he has money here and he wants to spend it. Not that I trust the guy. Should Scott Ritter have been banned? Suspended? No, of course not. You can have your opinion and your view on whatever you want, but this is the game. The narrative must be upheld at all costs. You are not allowed to dissent. Does Jack Dorsey really support censorship? I think he absolutely does. Politically. Because he could have said at any point, I am furious with what Twitter is doing. I mean, look, the dude left the company, okay? He was planning on leaving. Jack Dorsey could have come out and said, what Twitter has done in terms of censoring political dissidents is wrong, and I will no longer stand for it. I hereby tender my resignation. He didn't do it. He said, I'm out, yo, later. Accomplishing nothing, changing nothing, challenging nothing. I have very little trust in Jack Dorsey. Now, I've talked to him on several occasions, DM'd here and there. I've asked him to come on Timcast IRL. We could talk about all of these things. He said maybe one day in the future. Sure. Busy guy. He doesn't owe me any of his time. There are a lot of people in prominent positions who, don't come on the show or whatever. I don't blame them. I don't think anybody owes me these favors to come on my show. But I would certainly love to hash out these issues, and I want to hear Jack Dorsey say it on the record. I want to hear him talk about what was really going on behind the scenes. Because you know what I expect to hear? I expect to hear from Jack Dorsey, honestly, I did not pay all that much attention. And when they told me it, I just said, sure, fine, whatever, because I didn't care. Dude's a billionaire. Not as rich as Elon Musk. Obviously, Elon Musk is reportedly the richest man on the planet. Putin probably is, but, maybe Elon Musk is the richest reported man on the internet. But Jack Dorsey was a billionaire off of all of this. He certainly didn't want to risk anything that he was working on. Plus, he's got Square. He's not going to stick his neck out for any of this. I'm no fan of... We have problems in human society. You know what I like? If someone came to me, if I was doing a report, an investigation, and someone threatened me, I'll publish the threats. And I'll say, here you go. Working on Tales from the Inverted World. Apparently, we've got a recording of a death threat against our lead reporter, Shane. Or, some kind of threat, because I think the threat was to skin him alive, because he was looking for the lost Confederate gold. And we're gonna include it in the story. Thanks for the soundbite. We can show people the sentiment of some who are concerned about the lost Confederate gold. Don't want anyone looking for it. Yeah, we'll publish it. If I was doing an investigation on a large corporation and they sent me a cease and desist letter saying we know what you're doing, because they do it all the time, I'd sit back, take a cigar. Don't really want to smoke, but I'd love to crack a beer and a cigar, drop the threats on the table and be like, here we go, baby. If someone tried to bribe me, I'd do the exact same thing. Here it is. Here's the attempt. And try and be more clever with your bribery. What did Jack Dorsey do? Well, I don't want to lose my money. You don't want to lose your money, man. what I don't understand about this is I just don't understand how much is enough. Timcast.com has grown massively. And I surmise at this point, the evaluation of this media company that we are building is massive. Based on the revenue this company generates, probably massive. The one weakness we have is that the majority of our income is tied to Timcast IRL, and it's substantially less income coming from other sources, mostly investing and expanding the business. But if we were to go off of revenue and unique viewership, which is upwards of 60 million per month, then, we're looking at a very, very large evaluation. And so people have come and said, why don't we do a deal? Why don't we give you money? And I'm just like, how much is enough? I don't believe there's any amount of money that someone could offer me because there's nothing I really want other than to report the news, challenge the system, and speak truth to power, as it were. Someone can come to me and say, I got to be honest. I don't believe there's an amount of money that could buy me out. I wonder how much would have been enough for Jack Dorsey. I think he's worth like $3 billion. He gave away like $1 billion of it to, I think it was like woke causes or something. I just wonder how much is enough for people? Apparently it's never enough. For me, I certainly think there's enough. I could go out and buy a Ferrari. I don't want a Ferrari. I want a newsroom with honest journalists who are striving to report the news to the best of their abilities. I want to challenge the machine that seeks to oppress and lie, cheat, and steal its way to power. Timcast.com's newsroom is my Ferrari. People doing good journalism. When you become members, this is what we seek to work on to expand and to grow. We're also trying to build culture. Chicken City is wildly successful. Steve Bannon came to Timcast IRL several times now. He told me the last time we were here that eventually someone's going to offer me a large sum of money to sell or something like that. It will happen. And I was like, yeah, probably. I mean, people have come to me before offering money. I've never taken it. We have no investors, just members. And I was like, there's no amount of money somebody could offer me. There's just, what am I going to do with it? I don't know, I guess buy a jet suit? There's a certain point where enough is enough. And I'm bringing this all up just to make this point. Not to, forgive me if it sounds like humble brags or whatever. No, I'm proud of the company. I appreciate everybody helping support the growth. We're doing really, really well. And I just think about all of these ultra wealthy people who are too scared and refuse to speak up. If Jack Dorsey really cared about what was going on in terms of censorship, if he really wanted decentralized social media, he could have snapped his finger and had it in 2 seconds. He didn't. He did a little bit. We've got people working on the nonprofit, on foundation stuff. We're filing, so it's a bit up in the air to figure out what we're doing, but we're working on it, and we have substantially less money than Jack Dorsey and Twitter. I take a look at the amount of money that so many of these people have, like even Joe Rogan, for instance, and Elon Musk, and I just don't get why they don't do more. Pause. Elon Musk bought a large stake of Twitter. He is doing, certainly. Building a social media platform wouldn't change anything. But if you can liquidate $3 billion to purchase all of this stock, transferring it into stock, could you not take out $10 million and launch a news organization? It's really crazy to me. I wish I could snap my fingers like any one of these people worth billions and just make a newsroom. Jack Dorsey doesn't care. I don't blame him. He's interested in tech, but why didn't he just put $100 million in investing into a new decentralized social media platform? He could do it. And then, man, take 10, 20 million into advertising. He could do it. They don't. I know they can do it because I know what we can do with substantially less. And we're going to do it. I don't need to be the CEO of a big tech company. I don't even need to be the CEO of Timcast.com. I am. My company, solely owned by me. But if there came a point to where I was worth $1 billion, you better believe I'm going to be writing checks left and right for tons of issues, causes, products, strategies, shows, you name it. I mean, we're already doing it. We're looking at new shows. We've got new podcasts. We've got new books coming. We're constrained only by our access to resources. Now, I could take a deal with someone, right? Steve Bannon, he says, if someone's going to offer you money, But if I take it, you get constrained by owing them. I don't want to do that. No, I want to grow Timcast to be bigger than Disney. And then it's going to be plain and simple. We are going to actually say, let's throw $100 million into a decentralized social network platform because we can. What am I going to do with the money? Buy a big house? I got a big house. More than one. Do I need more? I don't get it, man. That's just me. I'm curious as to what Joe Rogan has in mind, because I know he's doing things that he thinks are good and powerful with the money he makes, but he makes a lot of money. I know he cares about a lot of the same things, so I'm curious. What's stopping, say, Joe from putting 5-10 million investment into a news organization or something like that? Perhaps the challenge is managerial. And it's a fair point. I'm not saying Joe or anyone else has to do anything, but the challenge we face is managerial power. It costs money. Project management is not simple. Finding the talent who can make it happen is not simple. But we're working towards it every single day and growing as fast as we can grow. We have the resources to grow very quickly. The problem with inorganic growth, like just throwing money to make things happen, is that you don't make good things. You just waste money. So we have Pop Culture Crisis, for instance. New show, close to around 15,000 subscribers. They get several hundred, sometimes over 1,000 views. Not a whole lot compared to this show. We're getting ready to do an ad push for the show because it's coming into its stride. The graphics are there. The backdrops are there. You see, we started off, things were shaky. Over time, the crew has been developing and building out the show and doing a very, very good job of it. Now they've got neon lights. They've got good, unique backdrops. They got better art. And we're to the point where it's like, all right, let's do an ad push, organic growth. And it took several months. I'd love to be able to just snap the fingers and have a massive newsroom. If we had $1 billion, it would be very, very easy to do. Much easier to do. We don't. So we can grow as slow as we can. One of the challenges I will say in terms of the work we do with timcast.com is that we're member supported completely. That means if people don't want to support us, we don't make money. We don't charge for our news articles. We just ask you to be a member to help support the site. We do have a paywall for the Timcast IRL show and other members-only content like the Green Room. We'll eventually be putting up members-only Pop Culture Crisis content. And that's sort of a value proposition. There are a lot of people who can't afford to be members. We want to make sure you guys can read the news. There are a lot of people who like the work we do but won't give us money anyway. I guess you don't have to. And there are a lot of people who might not even watch the members-only content who give us money because they like what we're doing and they want to support our journalists and the work we do. And that's tremendous. There's a certain point where enough is enough, for me at least. Maybe that makes us dangerous in that we are motivated by passions and ideology. And the ideology is honesty and freedom. Jack Dorsey isn't that. I'm not trying to be insulting, disrespectful. It is an ideological difference that I believe we have with Jack Dorsey, a man of insurmountable means who talks about decentralization, doesn't do it. I mean, I know he did some stuff, but ultimately, what? He's pushing Bitcoin, sure, but so is the rest of the establishment and many large investment firms and VCs. I think Bitcoin and crypto is fantastic, by the way. But I just see this, so much of the world is ruled by people driven by business opportunity. Some of the most famous personalities that you know and love, you'd be surprised to hear what they say behind closed doors about what their motivation is and what their moves are based on. Their moves are based on making more money. We launched Chicken City. YouTube.com/Chicken City. Check it out. It's just chickens. I launched it because it was simple, it was cheap, and it was fun, and we have chickens. We're making money off of it. I launched this show because I like talking all the time, as you may have noticed. Made money doing it. I'm not running this company chasing after evaluation, high stock prices, or anything like that. I do it because I want to keep doing it. I want to do more. Too many of our leaders are driven by cash and a lack of passion. You take a look at the libertarian type leaders, the people who claim to support these ideas. Where's the cash into these projects? Where are the right-wing billionaires saying, okay, let's buy up Twitter? They don't do it because they don't care. The left is driven by ideology. bad ideology. And that's their motivating factor. So yeah, interesting to see Jack Dorsey on the other side of censorship. I'll leave it there. Next segment is, I will just briefly point out their YouTube channel was reinstated. It was an accident, they said. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.